Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents With Love, The Flower Sisters by Monique, narrated by Mari and Winston James. Every story has an end, but in life, every ending is a new beginning. Lily and Devon. 1. Lily. 3 days before Christmas. "I'm so happy to be able to do this, even during these holiday months," I said, smiling into my laptop's camera. My eyes bounced across the screen as my readers began to trickle into the live interview I was doing on my Instagram page. I smiled at the sight of Blossom and Daisy's names populating with the rest. "Speaking of the holidays," Jeff Martin began, smiling mischievously into the camera. After the success of my debut novel, the interviews seemed to be nonstop. It was exciting and exhausting all at the same time. "Your readers want to know if you have a Derek in your life." I chuckled and let my eyes briefly shift to where Devon was standing. He was perched up against the doorframe of my office, watching me. "I definitely have my own Derek." I placed my attention on the screen again, but better. The comments seemed to go crazy after revealing that. I knew it wouldn't be long before someone figured out who he was and posted it somewhere online for everyone else to see. "Oh, I bet he's fine. Is he rich? I hope he's chocolate. Every woman deserves some chocolate in their life." "It looks like your fans want to know more," Jeff said, cutting into my reading of the comments. "Care to tell us a little something about this mystery man?" "He's my safe place." I smiled, because letting them down when it came to my personal life was the best part of all of this. I liked knowing that I get to keep some parts of me private, even with my newfound popularity. I'd like to keep him to myself for a little while longer, but who knows? I looked over at Devon again. "Maybe one day I'll let you meet him." Maybe. "It looks like we won't get more out of you on that subject. Let's switch it up." His smile brightened. "Is it true that you have 5 sisters?" "It is very true," I chuckled. "And yes, we are all named after flowers." "The Flower Sisters? Is that what you all are called?" I knew he was reading the comments being left by Blossom. "That's my sister's comment you're reading right now." I shook my head and laughed. "She's a mess, but it's true. We are called the Flower Sisters by our friends." "Blossom," Jeff spoke, "give me one thing about your sister that people should know." It didn't take long for her comment to appear. "Just one? That is impossible. So I'll bless you with a few. She's relentless, humble, and last but certainly not least, a New York Times best-selling author. And don't you ever forget it," I said, smiling into the camera. "I'm so proud of you," Blossom cooed into the phone. "I just love seeing all these strangers support you the way that they do." "It's so crazy, Bloss." I stuck the pan of lasagna I'd been working on into the oven and left the kitchen. "How are the babies doing?" "Ugh, making me fat. But they're doing lovely." "And Roman?" "Driving me up a goddamn wall, but I love him regardless." I chuckled and poked my head into a few rooms looking for Devon. Heading toward our bedroom, I stood in the doorway and watched him fold a load of laundry. "I'll call you back, Bloss. I love you." "I love you more. Later." I stuck my phone into my back pocket and leaned against the doorframe. I was wondering. Devon cut his eyes at me, and I smiled. He always looked at me as if I were up to no good, and it tickled me to no end. According to him, my sisters were rubbing off on me more and more by each passing day. "Do you mind if we spend Christmas with your family?" It had been on my mind to propose the idea for about a week. With Christmas being just 3 days away, I needed to figure out our plans so I could warn my sisters. "You don't want to spend it with your sisters?" He took a seat on the bed and patted the spot beside him, which I quickly took. After a few months of spending nights apart, he'd asked me to move in with him. I was against it at first, but eventually I realized that I didn't want to spend my nights without him either. Sleeping beside Devon and then waking up next to him gave me a peace of mind I never knew existed. "I don't think your mom likes me very much." He watched me intently, and I shrugged. I figured we could get to know one another a little better. My sisters will understand. Though I didn't want to spend the day without my favorite girls, I wanted to feel like I was a part of Devon's world, too. He was already so deeply rooted in mine. You still have no idea how amazing you are. He shook his head and placed a hand under my chin. She adores you, Francine. Nah, he chuckled and picked up his phone with his free hand. Watch this. After a few seconds of him tapping on his phone, it rang. What are you talking about, Devon? Arabella's soft voice questioned. Everything about Devon's sister was sweet and delicate. She and I connected more than either of us had thought we would. I had to admit that I enjoyed the bond we've created so far. Do you think Ma hates Lily? My eyes widened at the same time that Bella's loud snort flowed through the phone speaker. Please! You're joking, right? Nah, I want to hear your thoughts. His eyes were on mine the entire time Bella spoke. If your mother could replace me with Lily, she would. Need me to do some more reassuring, or is that enough for you, big brother? Appreciate you. He hung up and set his phone between us. I can make more phone calls if you want, but I know that everyone will say something similar. When I didn't respond, he tapped his phone and clicked his mother's name before placing it on speaker. She answered immediately, and I had to cover my mouth to stop myself from bursting into laughter. You haven't gone and ruined your relationship with that sweet girl, have you? She asked, without saying hello. Now, why would you think that? Because you're calling me at 4 p.m. Shouldn't you be at your bar? Devon chuckled. I do own it. I can show up when I please. How's Lily? I'm fine, Mrs. Erickson, I said, deciding to make myself known. Hearing her speak about me in a positive light made me feel a little more comfortable. Good. If my son screws up your relationship, there's a lovely guy at the church you'd be perfect for. I could hear the laughter in her tone. She was enjoying this a little too much. Devon mumbled under his breath, and then ended the call without allowing me to respond. See, he said, she loves you. I sighed and dropped my shoulders. She just seemed so cold whenever I'm around. Whenever you're around, so is my father's wife. He laughed and kissed my forehead. Her and my pop have a good relationship and always will, but she hates his wife. It's hard for her to keep a neutral face. I promise she loves you, and that phone call proved it. Call her sometime. She'll jump at the idea of you two hanging out and getting to know one another. You think so? I know so. I pulled on his beard and poked my lips out. Devon's beautiful smile spread across his face and lit up my world. It happened time and time again. He placed his soft lips on mine and then said, We're spending Christmas with your sisters. I can't let you miss out on that. This holiday season was the first of many that I would get to spend with my sisters, this first go-round being the most important to me, and Devon understands that. He always understood. You know, I stood and walked into the closet. We could always invite your mom to dinner. Baby, do you know what type of disaster you're setting this up to be? He stepped into the closet just as I unfastened the last button on my shirt. Imagine my mother with your aunt. I smiled. Sounds entertaining. Along with Roman's mother and Ezra's. I shrugged and slipped out of my jeans. Sounds even more entertaining. Devon scoffed, and I chuckled softly. Exactly. It's a foursome none of us are quite ready for. That may be true. I slipped one of my bra straps down, and his eyes followed the motion, but I'm still inviting her. I removed my bra, exposing myself to him, and he licked his lips. It was a gesture I had grown accustomed to, one that I loved immensely. Are you trying to seduce me right now? Is it that obvious? Devon flicked his gaze up to meet mine and smirked. I can read you like a book, Francine. He pulled me into his arms and tilted my head back. You want something from me? I nodded, and he shook his head. Speak. Yes, I want something from you, I whispered, wrapping my arms around his neck. I want you. No, I need. His lips settled on top of mine, and I let out a moan of satisfaction. Kissing this man, my man, had become my favorite pastime. It was something I could indulge in for hours if he allowed us to. "Babe, ah!" Devin gripped my ass and lifted me up. He pressed my back against the wall, and I secured my legs around his waist. "Devin." He kissed along my shoulder and then brushed his lips against my ear. "Yeah, baby." The sound of his pants hitting the floor stalled my response. Devin's thick erection poked at my heated core, and I whimpered in anticipation. I brushed my pussy against his dick, silently begging him to give me what we both wanted. It didn't take long for my wish to be granted. He drove deep inside of me, and I clung to him for dear life. "Shit." "I love you," I whispered into his ear. "I love you. I love you." Devin's strokes slowed, and he took his time pushing in and out of me, just the way I liked it. He took a deep breath into my neck and said, "I love you more, Francine."
2. Devin. Are you going to speak or just stare at me? Arabella turned her gaze from me and I sighed. My sister had shown up on my doorstep insisting that we needed to talk, but hadn't said a word since we sat down. "Bella." "I took an internship in Detroit," she blurted. I frowned. "Michigan? That would be the place, in between Ohio and Illinois, surrounded by the Great Lakes and—" "All right, smartass, you can stop now." Arabella shook her head and chuckled softly. "What kind of internship is it?" "Well," I narrowed my eyes at her and she smiled. "It's a media company." "In Detroit?" She nodded but didn't elaborate. My frown deepened. "Bella, quit stalling and tell me about the actual position. It's a lot you can do at a media company." "Musical engineer." "You want to make music?" "I want to help create it, D. You know how much I love to sing, but it's different when I'm creating beats and putting different sounds together." It was true. My sister had a knack for music. She was a damn good singer, and I'd even heard a few beats she created over the years that were pretty dope. I leaned back and stared at her. "I didn't expect that to be a career choice, but if it's what you want to do, then go for it." "Really?" "Did you think I would try and change your mind?" "I don't want to disappoint you or Dad. He doesn't even know I changed my major after my first semester. No one did until now." Her dark eyes, the same that mirrored my own, closed and then reopened. I couldn't believe she was this nervous. Laughing, I leaned forward and asked, "Do you really think your father wasn't aware of your major change? We all were." "He never said anything, so I just thought—" She shrugged, not finishing her statement. "He knew, and he supports you. We all do. Now tell me more about this media company." She squealed and pulled her phone out. I watched as my baby sister typed excitedly and then slid the iPhone my way. I scrolled through the company's website and nodded. The Media Factory had been around for over a decade and had the accolades to show for it. "The owner's name is Alayla James Williams. She's based in California now, after expanding her business to the West Coast. Her Detroit location was her first." "Guess who her brother is?" I lifted my gaze to meet hers. "Who?" "Amir James." I stared at my sister, completely lost at who Amir James was. "Oh my God, you don't know who Amir James is? What rock have you been living under, D?" She scoffed and shook her head. "He's a 4-time Grammy Award-winning music producer. He's worked with some of your favorite artists. He's—" "I get it." She smiled and I laughed. "So you'll be working with him?" She nodded. "Yep. He and his wife are both musicians. She's the one who hired me." Did I hear the name Amir James?" Lily asked, stepping into the living room. She had a towel wrapped around her shoulders, and wet curls were dripping from the fresh wash she'd given them. Her eyes were on Arabella, but I couldn't take my gaze off her. It was still a shock to my system knowing that she was all mine, knowing that one day soon she would be my wife, way sooner than she thought. "I'm going to be working with him!" Arabella exclaimed. Lily's face lit up and she plopped down on the coffee table, putting herself right in front of Bella. They began talking and I quickly excused myself to make a call. "Yo," Ezra answered. "Did you get that for me?" "Yeah, I just locked it away in the safe. You ready?" I walked to the end of the hallway and leaned against the wall. From where I was standing, I could see Lily and Bella, but they couldn't see me. "I'm ready." "Do you think she is?" "That's a question only you can answer, but yeah, she's ready." I chuckled and he did the same. Do you know how hard it is hiding this shit from Lilac? She knows something is up. I had to use the safe at my studio. You won't have to keep the secret for long. Christmas is 2 days away. 2 days before your life changes forever. Yeah. I pushed off the wall and stepped into view. Before it changes for the better. No need to be nervous. I can bet on a couple of games of pool that she'll say yes. Laughing, I said, the first step of battling addiction is admitting you have a problem. Is there something you'd like to tell me, Ez? He was silent for a while, and then I heard a deep sigh. I, Ezra Fields, am addicted to beating niggas' ass in pool at Booker's Bar and Grill. His deep chuckle filled the line, and then he was gone. I shook my head and stuffed my phone into my pocket. Are you two done fangirling over this Amir guy? I asked. They both turned with narrow gazes on me. What? I don't know, big brother. Bella started with a smirk on her face. You sound real jealous right now. Lily stood and stepped in front of me, placing her palms against my chest. Are you jealous, baby? Why would I be jealous when you're already mine? When after Christmas, if you say yes, you'll be mine for a lifetime. Ooh, you two are gross. I laughed and held up my middle finger. I will see you guys later. I'm going to talk to Dad. She turned to leave, but I called out to her. You can be whatever you want to be, Bella. Don't let anyone tell you differently, all right? Okay. She left, and I turned my attention on Lily. You're an amazing man, Devin Booker. I shrugged off the compliment and pulled on the damp curl hanging in her face. She wasn't natural, but her hair still curled up beautifully when it was freshly washed. I like your hair like this. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Lily stood on her tiptoes and kissed my lips. Then she backed away, her eyes still trained on mine, and said, I'm going to blow-dry my hair before the girls get here to braid it. She spun around and sauntered up the hall, leaving me there, watching after her like a lovesick puppy. I love you, I yelled. I love you back, she returned. Oh, and Devin? What's up? I moved toward the hall to find her leaning out of the guest bathroom. I don't know why this is on my heart to say, but whenever you decide to ask me to be your wife, the answer will be yes. She slipped back into the bathroom before I could respond and shut the door. You'll be saying yes sooner than you think, butterfly, I muttered before turning away. Blossom and Roman. 3. Roman. Christmas Day. There was something about watching my soon-to-be wife sleep that made me realize how lucky I was to have met her when I did. Not only would she be my wife in 1 week's time, but in the months following our destination wedding, she'll give birth to not one, but 2 of my children. Twins. A boy and a girl. The best of both fucking worlds. I feel you watching me. Blossom rasped, popping one eye open and look at me. That's because you haven't been sleeping for at least 10 minutes now. She opened her other eye and smiled at me. Merry Christmas, BB. Merry Christmas, Ro. I pulled the blanket off her body and placed my hand on her round stomach. Carrying 2 babies made her bigger than usual, and I enjoyed every minute of seeing her body change right before my eyes. It's time to get up, baby. We are hosting dinner. She groaned and rolled her eyes. Remind me again why you let me make that decision. Your world, baby. Blossom poked her lip out, and I leaned in to kiss it. Your world. I let my eyes shift back to her stomach where I had been softly caressing it. They treating you all right? Her OBGYN had scared the fuck out of me when she talked about the complications of having multiple babies. After that first appointment, something inside of me shifted. I had already been protective of Blossom, but it was different now. Her safety and the safety of our children were top priorities. I was sure she was beginning to tire of my constant checking in on her, but I didn't care. It was my way of showing how much they meant to me, how much she meant to me. Her hand landed on top of mine and our eyes met. She was so damn beautiful, even more now than she had ever been. For the most part, she finally said, breaking our staring match. I'm pretty sure it's your son that's sitting on my bladder, though. She sat up and kicked the blanket completely off. Be right back. The minute she was inside of the bathroom with the door closed, I jumped up and grabbed the gift I'd hid on my side of the bed. We had agreed on no gifts because of the money spent on having our wedding out of the country. The thing is, I couldn't let the day pass without giving her this specific present. I moved around the bed and sat down facing the door. It wasn't long before Blossom emerged. I should go start the roast. It needs to be in the slow cooker for at least 5 hours, she said, adjusting the oversized t-shirt she was rocking. She lifted her gaze with her lips parted to say something else, but stopped at the sight of the red gift bag I was holding. Wrong, man. I know we said no gifts, baby, but this was in the works already. I held my free hand out, summoning her to me. Once she was close enough for me to reach, I pulled her down into my lap. Open it. Am I going to cry? I chuckled but didn't respond. Blossom wasn't exactly the emotional type, but the pregnancy had her hormones all over the place. She was definitely going to cry, but I didn't want to tell her that. Oh, man. In her hand was a rectangle box with her gift inside. She flipped it open and stared at the locket in the shape of a flower, a marigold flower to be exact. Rome, man. Look inside. Her watery gaze met mine, and then she looked away. With shaky hands, Blossom opened the locket. You have this same picture on the dashboard in your car. There's a smaller version in your wallet, one on your desk. I like to have your mother with you wherever you go. The picture inside was of a 5-year-old Blossom and her mother. Now you can wear her around your neck. She'll be with you when you're in the grocery store, shopping at the mall, hanging with your sisters, and... You made me cry, she whined, throwing her arms around my neck. This is the most thoughtful gift anyone has ever bought me. I don't even know how to properly thank you, baby. A proper thank you isn't needed, I whispered into her ear. You being in my life, agreeing to be my wife and birthing my children is thank you enough. To be honest, I don't know how to thank you properly. Just know that I love you, BB. Forever and ever, baby. Blossom got it smelling good as fuck in this bitch, Ezra exclaimed, walking into the kitchen with 2 pans of whatever Lilac had cooked. He set the pans down and cut his eyes at me. What's up, bro? Have you always been this foul-mouthed? He chuckled and walked over to the crock pot where the roast was still cooking. Then he moved over to the stove and lifted the top on the greens. Better move before she sees you. Blossom had caught on to my cooking lessons rather quickly. After getting engaged and moving in with one another, she went even further by signing up for a couple of Lilac's cooking classes. My baby had gotten good at throwing down in the kitchen, and she took it seriously. Listen to you. Blossom got you. Ezra, move your large-ass head from my pots. Blossom fussed, stepping into the kitchen. My eyes immediately found the curve of her ass. She was wearing a form-fitting pair of jeans and looked thicker than she'd ever had. I licked my lips. Roman told me to do it. He lied and left the kitchen. I shook my head and wrapped my arms around her waist, gripping her ass with both hands once she was settled. Your cousin is crazy. Laughing, I buried my face into the crook of her neck. You smell good. It's the perfume you bought me. I nodded and kissed her forehead before releasing her from my hold. I made a note to keep buying that specific scent for her from now on. Is there anything else you need help with? No, baby, I got it. Can you help Lilac and Ezra, though? They have the rest of the food. She picked up the dishes everyone else made, too. Before doing what she asked of me, I watched her. I did that sometimes because it still hadn't registered that I had my heart here with me in the form of her. She had her back to me, tasting the green she'd fussed about the whole morning. A soft moan came from her direction, and I smiled. Backing away, I left the kitchen and was met with Lilac standing at the front door. What's up, girl? The smile she had already been sporting grew wider. Brother-in-law. Almost. You ready? I never thought I'd be getting married before the age of 30, but I damn sure hadn't planned for a double wedding with my cousin and his girl. Lilac looked over her shoulder and then back at me. More than ready. Her smile seemed to stretch further, but I noticed that it didn't completely reach her eyes. Interesting. Where's baby mama at? Kitchen. You go ahead, and I'll help Ezra with the rest. Please be careful with the fried turkey. I had to double pan it, but the bottom is still hot. I nodded and let her slide past me. After stepping outside and spotting Ezra chowing down on something, I chuckled. Just can't wait until dinner, huh? Man, listen. He turned to face me and then leaned against his truck. We ain't eating for at least another 3 hours. Seeing all this food is making me hungry and impatient. I leaned into his truck and shook my head. The apple tarts Lilac made were topless and looking good as hell. Ezra reached for another one and stuffed it into his mouth. Shrugging, I grabbed one of my own and ate it before covering the container up. They're lucky I'm not down here carving that Cajun turkey with my pocket knife. I want to run something by you. Ezra looked around the quiet neighborhood Blossom and I had purchased our first home in, and then focused his attention on me. My kids will need a godfather. Oh, hell. Ezra smiled and nodded. I already have one goddaughter that's in my pockets and not even speaking yet. I chuckled and crossed my arms. He and Lilac were already godparents to Juniper and Brandon's little girl Bailey. Blossom has someone else in mind for the godmother, but I want you. You're my brother and best friend. I trust you to look out for them if something were to ever happen to me. Ezra was the father figure my kids could benefit from. You already know my answer. I got you and them for life. What the fuck am I going to do with a daughter that I'm sure is going to look like her mother? I shook my head thinking about the future. I need more guns. We can make that happen. He grinned and I laughed. Who am I sharing godparent duties with? Brinley. I should have known. Brinley had already happily accepted. She and Samir had in return asked Blossom and me to be the godparents of their little boy Sincere. In the end, the goal was to keep all of our children together no matter the circumstances. They would never feel alone in this world. Let's get this food inside, I said, grabbing the box filled with 3 aluminum pans. Ezra picked up another box and said, Yeah, before the food bandits come out here fucking with us. An hour later, our home was filled to capacity. Blossom and her sisters stood around the kitchen, fussing over food that was still being cooked, while also getting everything else on the table so we could eat. I stood in the kitchen entryway, watching them. There was something about seeing them together that was not only entertaining but heartwarming. It didn't take long for Blossom to spot me and make her way over. You should be with the guys, she murmured, wrapping her arms around my neck. I wrapped one around her waist and used the other to softly grip her chin. I was checking on you. She chuckled softly and smiled up at me. You're going to be a great father. Where'd that come from? I don't know, she shrugged. It was on my heart to say. Well, the doorbell rang and I glanced at the door. You invited more people? Everyone that I was aware of being invited was already lingering around the house waiting to eat. Maybe. She smiled and slipped out of my arms. I'll grab it. She sauntered toward the door and I followed. Blossom glanced my way before turning the knob. The nervous glint in her gaze didn't prepare me for who was standing on the other side. My eyes widened. What the fuck?
4. Blossom. 30 minutes prior. Did you tell him yet? Juniper asked, after spinning me around to face her. The look on my face must have been answer enough because the frown she had been sporting deepened. Jesus, Bloss, that man is going to lose his shit. I turned back toward the stove and stirred the homemade gravy I'd been working on. He won't, I insisted. I know my man. He'll appreciate my efforts. Who are you trying to convince? Daisy chimed. Us or yourself? Both. I wouldn't dare say that aloud, though, so I turned to Magnolia for help. Do you think I messed up, Mags? I think what you're doing is admirable. But maybe you should have talked to him about it first. Lilac interjected. I don't think he'll make a big deal out of it, though. But to be clear, it is a big deal. I glanced at Lily, who hadn't said a word, and sighed. Shit, I cursed softly. I fucked up. It's too late to back out now, Magnolia said. Maybe they won't show up, but be prepared for it if they do. Besides, Lily began, finally deciding to speak, he won't let much go down while you're carrying his babies. I placed my hand on top of my stomach and smiled. Just the mention of my 2 little munchkins made me happy. Now, let's get this food ready to be served before I have to strangle Ezra, Lilac said. He's hungry for no reason but that there's an abundance of food laying around. Lily snorted, and I chuckled. Soon we were moving in perfect sync while talking about Aiden not being able to get the day off. It wasn't long before I felt a set of eyes on.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?